Welcome back to the season. I hope you had a great Christmas holiday season and a safe and happy new year. Jay's working on a 96 team tournament right now. So we're going to talk about the ins and outs of running a youth basketball program tournament. Then we're going to finish off the mailbag questions from the last episode. You ready to go, Jay?
Yeah, absolutely.
First things first, Jay. It's good seeing you again. I missed you last week. And you're running a 96 team tournament in Oconomowoc. And I don't think coaches from out of Wisconsin know how much coaches in Wisconsin have to do. Not necessarily need to, but have to, because like in Illinois, for example, the middle school basketball the middle schools run the basketball programs. So you don't really have to touch anything till they get to be freshmen at your high school. And in Wisconsin, the varsity coaches basically have to run the youth programs unless you're in a community that has tons and tons and tons of help. So give me your philosophy on like how you got to a point of like, I'm not just going to run it. I'm going to flourish in it and thrive in that youth program.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things like from a tournament standpoint, it does a couple things. Like it showcases your program and your youth program, right? But even more so, like our school district allows us to use our high school field house. We're using a couple of our middle schools and an elementary, and you get to showcase your facilities that your community is really proud of. And we get a lot of compliments. It's just a lot of teams that come from, whether it's the Appleton Green Bay area, or we get some from Stevens Point, La Crosse, Madison area, teams from all over the state. We're centrally located enough that they come out here and it's like, hey, really like your facilities. It's a great setup for a youth tournament because your field house is wide open and we use all four courts and go that way at the high school. And, to me, it would be easy enough to like drum up some youth parents and people to do it, run the tournament and be a part of it and stuff like that. But, I have two things with it. I want to be around it. I like watching our youth teams play. It might be one of the few times like I get to watch some of our teams play throughout the year just because we're busy on weekends with games too and don't always get to get out to our youth events and youth league games. So I get to see our youth kids play and be a part of like hyping them up and getting them going for a home tournament. But, the other side of it is I want to make sure it's run right. If we're going to put our name on it, and our tournament's called the Walker New Year's Showdown, and it's named after a player of ours that passed away when he was an 8th grader in an ATV accident. And now we work with his family to honor him and have the tournament named after him. And if I'm going to do that, I want to make sure it's run right. I want to make sure it's one of the best youth tournaments in the state if possible, and that people want to come to it. And it's just growing over the years. I mean, last year we were at 84 teams. Now we're up to 96, which is the max that we can take over 2 days. And I'm just really proud of our staff, our high school staff, our high school players, and our director, Sonny Shank, and our youth coaches that have helped pitch in to make this just a fun 2 days of basketball in Oconomowoc with us. And that's what you always want. We're kicking off the new year with a tournament, and we want people to be excited about starting basketball here in 2026 and kick it off the right ways.
How do you do this during your season, though? Because you're watching dozens of hours of film. You have a 9-to-5 job teaching, practices, game prep. How do you find the hours in the day to prep for this match? I know it's winter break, but still, this takes a lot of legwork for anyone who hasn't run a tournament before.
I think over the years, like if I would have went back maybe 10, 15 years, I would have been like, oh, I got to do it all. I got to do it all myself. I got to do this. I got to do this, and just chip away at a list. Probably I would have a long list of things to do. But anybody that watches this that knows me, one, I have really good people around me, and I don't mind delegating. So Sonny is our youth director and tournament director, and Sonny takes on communicating with the teams and putting the brackets together and sending that out, and making sure everybody that is coming to play in the tournament knows what's going on and where to be. My staff here and our players, like we stayed after practice yesterday and set up all of the entire high school area for the games and the concession area. And then we went out and set up the 3 other schools and got them ready to go last night. So that was done a day ahead of time. So all we had to do this morning was show up and turn the lights on and hope that all the refs and teams showed up, because you need to have them to get going on time, right? and that there's no snow. I mean, we pray for no snow because we need to get this thing in. But that's to me, as a head coach, like your job is to surround yourself with great people and then put those people to work. It's why you hire them. It's why they're part of your program, and give them things to do and let them go do them. And like I said, I'm really blessed to have really great people that want to be here and put time in. And my staff's been here all day, and they'll be tired at the end of the day. And then tomorrow we'll split some shifts up so they can spend some time with their families and relax a little on Sunday as well. But today's kind of our big day, and we're made a big push to get it, everything done the right way here. And we're in the final hours here, Hunter. Of we got about 4 rounds of games left, and then we'll clean up and head home for the night. But
well, if anyone comes looking for you and they pop their head into the office, bring them on. I'll ask them a hard question.
Yeah, and they will be in because concessions running low. They're trying to come in and steal water and Gatorade out of here. So
we'll have a rule. If someone pops their head in, they have to answer one of these questions here. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was the year I helped run it, was that the first year of this tournament?
I think that was maybe the second. I think it was the second year. I think it was second.
Okay.
I think you and I got it off the ground the first year, and then I said, "Hey, if you want to take this and run with it, like I know you're trying to get experience in different things, go ahead." So, I think it was year 2. I'm like, "Hey, Hunter, it's all yours. Go for it."
That was such a good thing for me. I can tell you this now. I was so overwhelmed. I was freaking out, but it was such a good thing for me because honestly, running a youth basketball program after putting something like that together was so much easier. And I think it would really help you out earlier in your career if you did stuff like that and you asked for permission to take on those sorts of tasks. Because I think a head coach would say, yes, I'd love for you to help with it. But my only faux pas that I still remember is I had a bunch of teams drop out like the week of. And I was like, why are they all dropping out? So I had to fill in some subs. And it was a B tournament pool. And we had Kel Moraine's B team in the tournament. And I didn't know what to do. So you're like, just ask around. And I asked, and Kel Moraine's A team was the only team that could hop in. So I bring them along, and the B team was like mad when they got there. They're like, this is a B tournament. And I was like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It'll be okay. They ended up meeting in the championship game, their A versus their B team, and their A team slaughtered them. Yeah. And I just hid my face in the corner of the gym. And I was like, this is crazy. But did you learn anything, or did you have any stories about running tournaments that's like you look back on and you go, man, I screwed this up earlier. I learned my lesson.
The only ones I really remember are like the years where it's like you have to deal with like an unruly fan, and or a team that like a coach or a team that's complaining about officiating or something else. I mean, those were really the ones where they stick out in my head. Like, man, I just had to give that person their $5 back and tell them to go home. We don't need them here. or like. Coach, like you can either coach or you can leave. You can have one of your assistants finish the day out. But, it's stuff like that because in the end of the day, it's a youth tournament and kids are playing a game. Like the adults are the ones that screw it up. Right. So like when I'm walking around at the youth tournament, I'm just trying to like make sure that we don't let the adults screw it up for the kids because it should be a fun day of basketball for them. And so those are the ones I remember. I guess I don't get too nervous when we run out of like stuff in the concession stand or anything like that. It's a good sign that we've done pretty well for the day. But overall, this is the largest tournament I've ever had here, or in Jefferson when I was there. And it's just, again, it takes a village to put together a tournament and run it and have it turn out, the right way. And like I said, we're just really lucky. We have some really good people here that want to be a part of it. So
you just gave me a great idea for a shirt. Youth sports, a kid's game that adults ruin.
Yeah. Put that on a bumper sticker, right? Let's get that on some cars.
I'll hand them
out here at my next tournament. Kids game.
That's honestly such a good idea. That's a great t-shirt slogan. And you just stumbled into it. You've watched a lot of middle school basketball. What's one thing that you've seen that is a common, like, man, kids could really improve at this level right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think every time I watch kids at the middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade level, defense is one thing, just defensive intensity. It's hard for them to like stay locked in on that end for long stretches. You just can't help it. Even your best defenders, like it's tough. They're good on the ball because you're excited to guard the ball, but in the gaps on the help side, like talking, all the things that would go into defense. I watch that because I'm like, to me, a kid sticks out to me. If I hear them talking and they're constantly like showing great defensive like intensity and effort, like I'm like, wow, that's a special kid at 7th and 8th grade to really be that on that level on the defense end, because it's easy to get excited to score or to play offense or those sort of things. So I'm probably a weird guy that way. I walk around watching kids play defense at tournaments, but I haven't seen a lot of kids jacking 3-point shots today, which has been kind of exciting. They've been playing within their offense and looking to attack the rim more, a little bit less of the, I think in past years I've seen kids just kind of launching threes, like shooting way too many of them and bad shot selection. It hasn't been too bad out here today, even from some of the younger grades. It's been pretty good, and it's been pretty good basketball overall, pretty competitive games. So.
Yeah, let's get to your season real quick. You had a bit of a skid, which we talked about. You have a young group. It's going to happen. You're going to lose a few games in a row. And then you broke that skid last week with a good win over Hamilton. And how do you manage that? You have a young group and you lose a couple games in a row, which is going to happen. You're not freaking out, but there's probably some freaking out, among the kids or parents or whatever. How do you manage those moments as a coach? Is there anything specific that you do?
We just continue to show up and talk to our kids about trusting the process, and we just stay positive. It's easy to get negative and pile on to maybe if there is some worry already and thing. And I think when you're negative, it doesn't mean you can't coach them up and be hard on them and call them out for mistakes and make them better. But we're not negative about wins and losses and that side of it. It's, how can we get better today? How can we get better tomorrow? How can we get better next game when we get the chance to step on the floor again? And we talked about this in an earlier episode that you have to approach it with little victories and finding things that way. To our guys' credit, they've stayed positive with each other. They've picked each other up. They've tried to get on to the next play when they make a mistake, so we, don't let the mistakes snowball. And that's kind of been our thing. We've had some small bad stretches within games in these losses where it's just like we couldn't overcome our own 4-minute bad stretch. We played decent the rest of the time, but this 4-minute stretch kind of killed us. So we go back and watch it with the kids. Like, how can we stop this run that they're making right now? Like, talking about that, because again, if we can learn that now, that carries over the next 2 to 3 years with this group, that we're going to have them back, and they're going to now understand, like, how do we finish games out? How do we win games? And that's why that Hamilton win was huge over the holidays last Sunday. Sorry, it was a big win because we finished the game out after being up 10 points early and then letting them come back, and then getting up 10 in the second half and letting them come back. We figured out a way to finish at the end of the game and sneak out of there with a little 5 or 6 point win, I think. And that's just a great confidence booster, especially for us when I'm talking about, hey, trust the process, keep showing up and working hard, keep buying in and believing in each other, and that's exciting. It's exciting to see kids see their work pay off. And then the other thing we did over break here is every practice has just been competitive. Like, whether it's scoring out our warm-up drill, we're doing a layup drill, 1 minute on the clock or 2 minutes on the clock. How many layups can we get in 2 minutes? Hey, if we hit 20, everybody gets a point on the board. So we wrote everybody's name on the whiteboard. Everybody gets a point. Hey, next drill. If you don't let your guy get to the paint, we're keeping it out of the middle. You don't let your guy get to the paint in this drill, you get a point. They get to the paint, you don't get a point. So we figured out a way to make every drill competitive for about 3 straight days. And again, we kept the energy up that way. When guys are not in school, you know how it can be, Hunter. You've been at practices where guys are coming in and they act like they don't want to be there. It's like they're tired from sitting on the couch all day, hanging out, playing video games or whatever they've been doing. So we got to find a way to jack up the energy and get them going a little bit. So every dang day was competitive over break, every practice we've had. And you know what? It actually showed up in the games last weekend where guys were competing in the little things, the breakdowns we were doing that we were competing in practice with. They were showing it in the games. And I just, like I said, to see practice carry over to games really means a lot for our group being young and inexperienced right now. So
how often when your team is going on a dry spell, it's a bad week or two, regardless of your season, I always struggled with this. How often do you harp on the negatives because it's your job and you need to correct the mistakes? But I felt like there was this sense of learned helplessness, some sensitivity, some woe is me type stuff. And, you don't have time to develop that kind of character in that moment. You do as you go throughout your years and the season. How often do you like harp on those, like, guys, this sucks. Like we are terrible at X, Y, and Z, because you have to, but you start seeing heads hung, you start seeing, moping, like, oh, we just suck. So where's that balance for you at, in your opinion?
It starts with building a relationship with your players. And that starts last summer, or for years now, since the youth tournament, when I'm watching them play and getting to know kids at that level. Because even in a tough stretch, like when we pull a kid because he's not great on the floor, or he's made a bunch of mistakes or a couple, and now it's time for him to come out, I've got to be able to have him walk to me on the bench or walk down to where I'm standing, and I got to be able to put my arm around him or give him a hug and be like, hey, you're terrible right now. It is time to figure this out. Like, if you want to go back in this game and play, or, hey, you know what? Like, you did a couple really nice things, but your defense has been a liability. Like, you need to go sit by Coach Jeffries and talk about your defense right now if you're going to go back in. And so to me, it's such a little thing, but I want to put my arm around that kid, or I want to like get him eye to eye with me and looking at me, and I want to usually try to give him some sort of positive, something I saw he did really well on the floor, and then I'm going to hammer him with, come on, you're better than this. We can be better than this. We need you to be better than this. Like those sorts of comments, and give them some specifics of when you go back in, your effort rebounding has got to be better right now. When you go, we need you on the boards, and you need to get better effort on the boards. And again, what that does is you don't lose them with the eye roll and head tilt and looking off at their parents up in the crowd, because I've given them something positive, and I've grabbed them and got my arm on them, and then, hey, I care about you and love you and want what's best for you, but you better dang go rebound the ball right now the next time you go back in, man. Because again, it keeps their attention on you, and it forces them to look at you and go, you're right, coach. I do trust you. And you're telling me I need to go back in and do this. And that's the thing they'll remember when they check back in next time, in my opinion, and what I've seen over the years. Like, that works way better than me coming and getting in their face and finger in their face and screaming at them and making a production of them in front of everybody. Some kids will respond to that, but some don't. And to me, I got some guys that are not toughened varsity players yet, that they need an arm around them, they need me to pump them up for a second before I get on them and break them down, And so
right,
you got to know your kids. That doesn't work for everybody. And I've certainly had groups that were senior heavy where we could just pull them and go, you know what, so-and-so, you sucked on defense the last 3 trips. Like, have a seat. Like, someone else got a chance today. And that was fine. They would sit there, get pissed off that they came out, and they would go back in and get it right, and they didn't even have to tell them what they did wrong, because they already knew. I didn't need to tell them, you know what I mean? Yep. And we're not there right now. We're just not there.
Yeah. Last night I worked the shot clock for a game here in Illinois. What
was it?
A shot clock.
Oh, what's that?
Hey, you know what? I'll talk about that before the story. They
asked me. We don't have them here in Wisconsin. We're not used to shot clocks. You said a shot clock?
A shot clock. It counts the time as the game is going. It speeds up the game. It makes it better.
We'll get it 1 in 10 years.
But everyone asked me, does Wisconsin have it? I'm like, I'm telling you, they will be the last state to get it. And what's funny is the AD at the school knows I coached, and they're doing trial games this year. So some non-cons, and it's full-fledged next year for every game. And so she emailed me. She said, we just need someone that knows how to do it for this year without training. Like, can you do it? And I said, yeah, it sounds good. And as I'm walking to the game, the high school is across the street from me. I'm going, crap. What do I do, really? And so I go to the game, and it turns out there's the clicker that you'd use for the scoreboard. But if you press left on it, it resets the shot clock to 20 seconds. If you press right, it resets to 35. And if the scoreboard operator stops the clock, the shot clock stops too. So once I found that out, I was like, okay, that's pretty easy. And I asked the ref, I said, well, if someone gets fouled, am I going to 20 or 35? And he said, it depends where at in the timer you're at. But if it's above 20, you pause it. And if it's, you just let it go because it pauses. And if it's below 20, you reset to 20. And the game's not about me, Jay. It's not about me at all, but I pitched a perfect game, 0 errors, based off intuition and quick finger skills there. And
I've never done this before, not in your life.
I never done it once, didn't look at it, I just showed up.
I have no idea how we would train people to do this in Wisconsin. I'm not sure that we could handle training people to run the shot clock, but man, if you did it, never done it before, I would assume that we can figure it out maybe, but
I did it based off intuition. And I'll tell you this, the refs too, they walked up to me before the game and they said, we'll help you. Like they were aware that this was a new thing and that we were in a trial phase. And they were super gracious. And what I thought was the key, if anyone's curious about shot clock operating, is just wait a second before you hit the reset time. Just make sure you saw what happened. If it's an offensive rebound, you go to 20, wait a second, make sure you know who got it. If it's a defensive rebound, wait for a second, make sure you got it, hit the 35. But the game was sped up, and I'll tell you what was interesting. It was a high level game. It was the number 2 and number 3 ranked girls teams in the area. Mm-hmm. And it came down to the last play. It was a 2-point game. And but I don't know where I was going with this, to be honest with you. But they had, oh yeah, I know. And what happened was it came down to using shot clock. There was a minute left, and there's a tie game. And I thought to myself, this is their first time ever, the coaches, players, managers, in a game where you better know what you're doing. You got 35 seconds here. Now, if you take the whole time, they get the last shot. If you get a quick one, you're going to get anyways, I found it so fascinating and enthralling, Jay, and I thought it was a really good experience. So I'm with you. It was, I'm going to be honest, it was pretty easy. And I actually volunteered to do all of them next year. Cause I was like, you're going to pay me to sit here and do this? Yeah, I'll do it.
That's awesome. Great story. I'm glad I got to put my plug in for Wisconsin getting the shot clock here at some point soon, but not holding my breath. I'll tell you that. I'm not going to hold my breath. One day we will have it.
But I'll just say, honestly, easier than I thought. I'll just leave it at that. Easier than I thought. I was thinking, I was a little nervous when the game started. I was like, what if how many times if I screw this up, am I going to get booed? But it was pretty intuitive.
Not about you, Hunter. They're not going to boo you.
I've seen a few scoreboard operators booed in my time at those small RVC schools. So the last question I'll ask you, and I'm just curious about this. How often are you doing scoreboard watching during the season? Are you looking at your playoff teams, your conference teams? And I ask you this because I was unhealthily obsessed with it. Every morning, the next day I got into work, I would look at the whole state scores. I'd look at the conference, and then I kept track of the playoff outlook, where would we fall, and started doing the math. And by the way, 3 out of the 5 years I predicted our thing exactly. I was unhealthily obsessed. How much do you look at that?
Oh man. At this point, none. I'm really focused on our guys, just getting better. We need to win some more games to worry too much about where we're going to end up, in the brackets. Honestly, when I look at it with our guys, I just want to see us continue to grow and keep playing better basketball. And really, I think we can be a really tough out when we get to tournament, no matter what seed they put us at. Obviously we might put ourselves in a hole here with our record early on. We're going to have to climb out of this, but I think we have the guys that can do it. We have some scoring ability. Our defense is getting better. We're starting to rebound. When we win the rebound battle, we're winning, our games that way. But I just, we get to early mid-February, I'm going to see where we're at and start to figure out, hey, who might we see? Are there a pool of maybe 3 or 4 teams that we could end up getting paired up against, and start to just, plan out a little bit. My assistants, John and Greg and Tim and Charlie and those guys, they'll maybe start to scoreboard watch a little bit or start looking at who's in our sectional just to get an idea, and maybe even start collecting a little film here and there coming up. But yeah, for me, it's, as we tell our kids, we want to be playing the best basketball we can by the time we get to March. And I'm really focused on staying in the process and staying in the fight with them right now, and making sure that I'm not letting their minds start to think about stuff that doesn't matter anyway for them right now. So I got to stay locked in on that side of it. But like I said, my staff, some of them will start to look at where we're at and what we're doing. And I will, to be honest with you, other years where we've been in different positions, I do look a little bit, maybe about this time of year, early January, mid-January, and I'll write everybody's record down that's in our sectional and try to figure out, okay, like, who do I think is going to end up here, here, and here? Who could we end up against? And then a couple weeks later, do it again. Maybe a couple weeks later, do it again, and just kind of play it out that way until we kind of know. But I've been a huge proponent, honestly, in our state of the WA running the computers thing that generates our brackets, like starting in mid-January, and then post it every Sunday. Like, I want to know where I'm at in the bracket now in the middle of January, like January 15th, tell me where I'm at. And then in another week, next Sunday, we just get a big win over Arrowhead. And now, hey, next Sunday, we just moved up 3 spots in the bracket, like in our sectional. Like, that win was huge, obviously. That, it affected our rating, I think that would be a lot of fun, kind of like the CFP does, where they start releasing the college football rankings, for, all the way through to the end when you get your final one, and I just think, how much excitement would that be for people like Prep Hoops and Bound and people that talk about it like we do, like to be able to go on a Sunday and go, oh, look at the rankings they just put out, or look at that sectional. Like, that's kind of a surprise, or give people something to talk about and build up that hype about basketball in the state of Wisconsin leading up over these next month and a half, 2 months leading up to the tournament starting. How much fun would that be if they could just release that every Sunday and the computer does it, The big thing,
agree.
I've asked about it, and the biggest thing on their end is coaches just have to update their scores. That's all they need. They really just need us to make sure our scores are updated, that there's not any missing for it to be accurate. And so that's the big thing for the WA. And as they said, we could do it. It just, coaches sometimes don't put their scores in, or we're missing some, and that affects the, what rankings people get. But
yeah, that would be really good. For everyone, not just like teams of knowing this is the why we're where we're at. We've seen it all year. There's less outrage whenever it finally reveals. But I think high school sports is in the 3rd inning of coverage. And I think that would just level it up a little bit more and give them more something to talk about and dissect and all that good stuff. But the only reason now it was unhealthy because it was just like for no reason, but there's one small reason. The last 2 weeks of the season, all of my games, unless we were in conference title contention, were geared around planning for who I thought we were going to play in the playoffs, to which it was it's a little ballsy, but at the same time, if you have a general idea of like we were in the Milwaukee City regional. So I had a pretty good idea of like what the pace of play would look like and the schemes and stuff. And, I would strategize my last 2 weeks around we're game planning for those playoff games. And it worked. We had a lot of success in the playoffs, but it's not something I advise, if that makes sense. It's kind of like to each their own. I wouldn't advise it because it takes your eye off the ball sometimes. But if you can control yourself and you have some smart analytic driven data, I think it might help. But I'm going to let you get back to your 96 team tournament. Kudos to your staff, man, your directors, your coaches, your players. That's a huge thing to take on. So shout out Oconomowoc staff.
Absolutely. I would echo that. And like I said, you don't get to do fun things like run these tournaments without having great people in your program and around you that all want to pitch in and show up to work. So our guys have done an awesome job today, and we're looking forward to a few more hours here of good basketball, and then all day tomorrow again. And then we're off into 2006. We got 2 conference games coming up this week with Kettle Moraine and Muskego, and you're in luck. You got your wish, Hunter. Okay. Coach Fisher literally just walked in the office.
Let's go. He said, he's coming on.
Gets a hard question. So I'm out
Sit down.
See you
guys.
Sit down.
Coach Price.
Well. Look who the cat dragged in.
Yeah,
how you
just
doing?
Who I was hoping to see.
You're a recent dad of a beautiful young baby. And during basketball season, tell me how that's been.
Well, I would say that I've been better on timing of things in the past. It's been good. It's been an adjustment. I will give my wife all the credit in the world for taking the 2 of them at home while we're at practice and games out and doing stuff. But it's been good. the holidays have been good to be home and spend some quality time with the family. But I mean, as you know, one kid is tough to coach. Two kids is also tough. So, but no,
You're
it's been good.
you're in man-to-man defense still. I think you get a lot harder with one more. There's a story I want to recollect with you, John, and there's like 3 times on Oconomowoc staff that I laughed harder than I've ever laughed in my life. And I think we've talked about one before in the past, but we haven't talked about this one. Whenever my last year, we went to the Badgers basketball game and we got like a tour of the locker room after the game. It was a fun experience. But me, you, and the coaches are sitting, 20 rows from the top. And there's a guy walking up the stairs carrying like a handful of nachos and pretzel cheese and a soda. And he does the thing where he's going to start walking over steps because he's in a hurry. And I've never seen this in my entire life because it's only been on TV shows. But as he gets to that last step, he does the cartoon wobble and his arms start spinning in the air and he falls backwards. And his soda, his nachos and cheese, and his pretzel and cheese all splashed back into his face as he slow motion fell backwards down the Kohl Center steps. And that is probably, I couldn't stop laughing. Do you remember this?
I think the worst part about the whole thing is that guy made that entire trip down the stairs to get his food and he didn't even get to eat any of it or enjoy any of it. Those are the moments where you're just happy that I'm too far to help out, but I'm close enough where I can appreciate the disaster that it was.
Every time I thought about it, I laughed till I cried. Me, you, and Uncle Brian were sitting in the seats together, and he was in tears too. I mean, an old, mature, and respectful man. He couldn't even hold it together for the entire trip. I have one question for you because we're at the end of the podcast. But I'm glad you came. You grew up going to Arrowhead High School. You won a state championship with Arrowhead High School. You moved to Oconomowoc. You got a teaching job. You coached there. So it's like a crosstown rivals almost situation. What was that like? I'm curious going because there's that school pride and there's the people razzing you from back home and you're so close to home. Do you enjoy that process? What's that been like? Do you still keep in touch? Do you still root for them? What's the deal?
Man, that's a pretty loaded question, but
hey, this is a heavy hitting podcast here.
Yeah, geez, I should have stayed out the door a couple more minutes. I think I came in at a really cool time because it was right as like the time that Oconomowoc was joining the conference. So it was cool to be a part of that, first Oconomowoc team to, hey, what is this conference? How is this different than the Little 10? Hey, we have to go against the big guys. Like, what's that going to be like? And it was cool to be on the other side of it as a coach who was able to, tell some of the guys, like, guys, I've been on that side, and like one of the things that I would say as, when I was a player over there, that we won so many games just by simply showing up because teams were in awe. Right. And I think that was a message early on to a lot of our guys is like, guys, it's another team, man, go out and play. They're 10 minutes from you guys. That's the only difference. So like from that standpoint, it was cool. It's obviously they have a great program over there and they've had a lot of success since I've been there and, in the last couple of years as well, but it's been fun to compete against them. I still keep in touch with Coach Hazy and all those assistant coaches, Coach Conway, Coach Lavoie, Coach Hokie, Coach Leone, all those guys, were my coaches and they're a big part of, why I got into teaching and why I got into coaching in the first place. So that's definitely not a relationship that you just throw away. But yeah, it's definitely fun to go against those guys, and it makes it even sweeter when we get to hang a loss on them.
Absolutely. And real quick, you got the Bucks hat on. Is Giannis going to be a Buck next year?
I'll probably take a lot of flack for this, but man, I hope not.
Like you can explain real quick if you want.
The man has done everything possible for the city of Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin. If we can't deliver, then we need to allow that guy to go wherever he wants to go, and we better recoup some picks because, man, the future is not looking too bright outside of Giannis right now. So, by all means, I think he's under contract for another year. Let's let's ship him now where he's still playing at an MVP level and, try to get the next Giannis in the draft.
I think they waited too late because now you're hearing like Spurs won't part with Castle and Harper, and the Hawks won't part with Jalen Johnson, and I think he gave the city billions of dollars in revenue, Steer District, all that stuff doesn't happen if the Bucks aren't as good as they are.
Totally, 100% agree. Whatever does happen, I hope it's the right decision for him. And obviously, I'm a huge Bucks fan, but we've also had many years of being really bad. So if that's the case, I'm ready to do it for another decade.
I personally enjoyed going to games with you and Alex in the early days. You're one of the best dudes I know. Genuinely excited for you. Your wife is a stud coach. I don't know if people know that, but the soccer circuit, the Fisher family has got a monopoly on coaching. Your kids better be good athletes. No pressure.
Yeah, they don't have much choice. Luckily for me, she's had a ton of success already, so there's no chance that I can even remotely touch her in that respect. But she's helping out with basketball season right now, and we'll flip the script once we get to March. So
people used to ask me, John, what if your kids don't play basketball? And I'd go, what if your kid's not an accountant? I don't know. Like, I'm going to love them.
What a question. Maybe he's going to be a good singer. I don't know where he's going to get that from. It's not me, but hey, I'll take it.
What if I was joined just now by the #1 ranked assistant coach in the state, according to the polls? And if you like the poll, if you'd like the polls, let me know. I can rank. There's media polls now, just so you know. And then my media poll has you ranked #1. So congrats. I'm sure you're hearing about this for the first time.
I appreciate that. Let's close the poll so there's no other voters that can come in. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, John. Have a good one.
Hey, I'm happy I was here, Hunter. It was good talking with you.
Jay, thanks again. I'll see you next week, man.
Sounds good. Have a good one. See ya.